Good evening. How are you? Well, I'm doing a sit and talk because the weather is pretty serious outside. We've had lightning and thunder, and we've had rain, and the heat is pretty serious. Thomas Jefferson reports that the temperature outside is 81 degrees and the humidity is 72%, which combined makes it pretty unpleasant. And they describe as breezy the 2.2 miles of wind that are rustling around outside, safely away from us. I thought I'd take this occasion to talk a little bit more with the use of vaccines in mind and what it means and how our nation would earn dividends if it would spend time analyzing these matters in a way that emphasized the facts and the implications of those facts in the practice of government in America under the regime of Trump, further confounded by the incompetent members of his cabinet, including in this case, RFK Jr. Science is something that has been important in my life. My undergraduate degrees are physics and engineering, and I have a master's in information science. And one could say I really liked education. You could say that, and law school, of course, as well. But the thing that fascinated me about science was I, as a kid, did some tricks, magic. And then Sputnik occurred, and I said, wow, that's real. This is all about gravity and time and relativity, and I was good at math and stuff like that. So I got interested in that, and so I've spent some time in my life both studying it and using it, but not so much as the engineer I might have been or the physicist I might have been. Science means knowledge, scientia. It's measurable. It can be tested. It proves itself true because under repetition, under similar circumstances, it does and results in the same result. If you are careful to keep the factors that give an effect uniform. So, in short, it's real. It's what science yields in terms of understanding. And it may take some effort to get at it. And in science in particular, you'll hear people saying they stand on the shoulders of others. And vaccines are just one of those examples. The fact that we're living longer has to do with the fact that we all of a sudden decided there were microbes and they had an effect on our health. And if we did something about that. And so we've accumulated information. And in the last 100 years, we've extended our life on this planet by these things that we've learned from science, medical science mostly. Now, what do we do with this? We have these other people out there who believe the universe, the entire universe, is 6,000 to 12,000 years old. And they do an exercise begatting in the Old Testament, which is not meant to be a scientific journal. It is if you will, a mix of myth and history to inform and give a cosmology to what mostly people didn't understand during the earlier times. And when you realize that the universe is 8 to 15 billion years young, then you can see there's a great difference between the science of it and the delusion or mythology of the age of the universe. We're complex, and we didn't arrive here with a snap of the fingers. Carl Sagan preferred to grasp the universe as it is rather than to delude ourselves. Now, those of you who followed the vaccines and so forth know that at one point we had a president, Trump, saying ivermectin could be used to, and what ivermectin is it worms big animals, and I have animals, and we use ivermectin, but I'm not taking any of it because it would have no benefit to me in fighting COVID-19, nor, in fact, any other, because I don't put my snout down on the ground and eat in the dirt and get worms inside of me that have to be flushed out. So ivermectin, all reports to the contrary notwithstanding, have no effect on COVID-19, nor does, as Trump proposed, it shining a light inside of you. That doesn't do anything either. So when you say something like that, are you so stupid as to believe it? Or are you trying to cast uh, a vague sense of unreliability of the science by saying these things that are absolutely preposterous and ridiculous and easy to seize upon, because I can get ivermectin down there. I don't have to get any kind of medicine to help me out with this that is actually going to apply as a vaccine to the COVID-19 and protect me from COVID-19. Now, did Trump know all of this? Well, he had to know what he was saying was false, even with a 75 IQ. I don't know what his IQ is, but by demonstration, I can infer it's not very high. He's a blowbag of enormous proportions. None would probably say, if he was ever in his class, that empty vessels make the most noise. And he made a lot of noise. And he was at Fordham for a brief time, and I was there at the same time. And there's not a person I know that's ever seen him at the Fordham campus. I don't know what he was doing, building buildings, cheating people. So in February of 2020, he's asked about COVID-19, and he's asked about how do we deal with it. And he told Bob Woodward, who had taped this session, so there's no way Trump gets around it. And he said specifically, and I made some notes so I could get this precise, I wanted to always play it down, Trump said. I still like playing it down because I don't want to create a panic. He doesn't want to create a panic. He wants to keep us ignorant. That's what he's doing. He keep us ignorant so we go to work, put ourselves at risk, and hopefully elevate business in such a fashion that it would help him by gross domestic product win the election, because he kept the economy going even as thousands or millions of people suffered and died. And at another point in the interview with Bob Woodward, the noted journalist, Trump said it was more deadly, this pandemic, than he thought, and that it put especially plenty of the young people at risk. So he's prepared to risk the lives of young people before we knew all the adverse effect of COVID-19 and the after effect of it. And he was willing to take people who are immunosuppressed and put them in the workplace, reassuring them it would be okay when it wasn't. And then we had enough people out there saying, oh, I can do it. And I wrote about some of these people and talked about some of these people at the time. So from 2020, now COVID-19, 2019 is when they believe it started. So from 2020 to August the 7th, 2025 right now, we had reports that there were, and I'm looking to get the number right, 1,233,365 deaths from COVID-19. And put it in a frame of reference, this past week, 72 people died from COVID-19 in America. Now, the National Institute of Health Vaccinations studied and said that the vaccinations prevented an estimated 14.4 million deaths. This vaccine kept safe 14.4 million people. That's something. And that is something that you would think would be promoting the general welfare. And if you're doing that, maybe they can go to work, or they can work at home, they can telework. There are ways to deal with it. But when you're not a brilliant man, and you are a deceitful one, you do what Trump did, because he doesn't care about people. And I hate to say that, but it's true, and there are enough data points to prove it as well. Now, if we had the vaccine sooner, millions more could have been saved, but a lot were saved. Now, mRNA was the first mRNA product, vaccine, to achieve full FDA approval. And again, you stand on the shoulders of other scientists, and this was certainly true about this vaccine, because there had been vaccines that suggested as possible palliatives in this situation. And they were. Now, what is the current secretary? So we got Trump setting up this whole thing. We have all the lessons about how wrong he was. A lot of people were saved. And now we have the Secretary of Health and Human Services, who's not really that concerned about our health, and he doesn't seem to be very human himself. For example, in the recent days, he's canceled $500 million in funding for 22 projects involving the vaccine. Pfizer, who is responsible for mRNA, and Moderna. And these projects would keep people safer as the infection, the flu itself, COVID-19, may change as sometimes these flus and diseases do. So he said now, what did RFK say? He said the vaccines pose more risks than benefits. Really? All those people who lived who would have been dead, I think they wouldn't agree with that. We had amazing stories about people on the air talking at length about the effect of COVID-19 on their abilities. So now Kennedy said he'd heard from the experts, but I don't think he listened really well, or he didn't choose his experts well. Sartre was a person who said that you choose the advice you get by the person you go to seek advice from. So if you go to somebody as incompetent as you are, RFK Jr., you're going to get as incompetent an answer. For all I know, they said, no, let's have an ivermectin party. Anything is possible. So a policy that withholds a health benefit and puts citizens at risk does not promote the general welfare, which is stated in the early parts of the Constitution of the United States. A policy that lies about the science should expose the declarant to impeachment or censure. I understand there are already people asking that he be fired. Trump can tolerate anything if it's part of a deal. For all I know, they decided it was good to cancel those contracts with Pfizer so they could bargain to get more money from them to let them go forward. I mean, you have to ask those questions. Do I have any evidence of that? Absolutely not. Of that specific misconduct. But we've seen plenty similar misconduct. So we have a frame of reference of what these people do that's wrong when playing with our health to make money and to feather their own nest. So not only will persons die because of RFK's ignorance and wrong thinking and disastrous propaganda, a large portion of the public are convinced that these people are right. The CDC is wrong. And so this is very upsetting. And so Patrick White got himself a weapon and fired hundreds of bullets at 6 buildings that the CDC use and occupy, forcing them to run and take cover where they could. And while, as far as I know, there were no deaths among the staff or the employees, but an officer who came to defend the people, he was killed. And he was a younger man, he had a family and everything else. It is astonishing that after the fact, instead of saying something like, "Are people working hard?" and what he said was the government overreached when persuading people to get vaccinated back in the original days, 2020 and going forward. Can you imagine that? And so he suggests that the shooter, who committed suicide, by the way, was right in some respect, that the CDC was doing the wrong thing. And so people are logically going to resign and leave, and some have already, because their integrity does not appear to be of value if you can't remedy the ignorance and misgovernment that a person like RFK or Trump want to have. Now, there should be a penalty that allows one to slap a guy like that in the face. Maybe you'd have to sign a waiver first. I would volunteer. I'd be glad to do it. His overpowering body doesn't scare me. You know the old expression about the Irish, is this a private fight or can anybody join in? So, but we seem to have the gloves behind our back, we don't seem to be fighting, and that's just wrong. What are we dealing with? Superstition, ignorance, pseudoscience. None of those are science. Those who believe easily What is nonsense put us all at risk. And we are all at risk because of what's going on in this nation. Incompetent people in office, wrong policies, people suffer, up to and including death, if not other sufferances. And America, I'm not so concerned about the nation's reputation insofar as the world knows we have a clown in the White House who's a very dangerous clown, a lot of power, doing really terrible things, self-centered. Service is not in an inventory of his concerns. So that's what I have. If I went on too long, I apologize. I think we have to be fleshing out these issues more publicly than taking simple statements and just brushing over them. It makes a difference if you can do a detail. If you can say ivermectin, that's what he thought was good. Put up the quote and so forth. People scratch their head. Can they all believe that the media is fooling them? Well, the media is always slipping the punches. They never ask it straight on. They never say it straight on. So thank you for your attention. And tomorrow, I expect I'll be back on the road. Bye-bye.